Tomorrow, 54 in Portland. Have a great evening, everyone.
KATU's Weather on the Hour is brought to you by Teplic Laser Surgery Centers. Your vision for the future.
On World News Tonight this Thursday, tragedy at Texas A&M. They were building a monster bonfire when it collapsed on almost 100 students. The Egypt Air mystery is a touch more mysterious. The co-pilot's family says he had plenty of money and every reason to live. We're on the internet again. It is transforming everything about the way we live, which makes the Chinese government very nervous. And Noah's Ark. The scientists say there was a flood.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. They were getting ready for the big annual bonfire at Texas A&M. They build and burn a mammoth bonfire every year for the game against the University of Texas. Tonight, they are still picking an enormous pile of logs apart in the hope that maybe a student under there is still alive. They've heard sound on several occasions. As of the broadcast tonight, we know that 9 students have been killed. 28 others were taken to the hospital. Half of them are still there, and several are in critical condition. The president of Texas A&M said today there will be no bonfire this year. The only other time it has been canceled since 1909 was when President Kennedy was murdered. ABC's Mike Von Fremd is in College Station, Texas tonight.
There were more than 70 students working under and on top of the 40-foot structure just before 3 a.m. when they heard a snap.
I don't know how loud it was because a sound like that when you're up there is a really scary sound.
Senior Caleb Hill was left bruised and dangling from his guide wires. His job was to sit in a harness and help swing the heaviest pieces of timber into place.
When it first started leaning, you could hear a cracking sound, and then it just kind of shoved me into the wood, and I swung back down around. I was hanging there dazed. I had at that time broken my nose already and my wrist.
Caleb was rescued, but many of his classmates were trapped beneath the timber. The rescue effort has been agonizingly slow. The campus watches and prays as hundreds of students wearing hard hats work with rescue workers to move the pieces of timber one log at a time.
It's critical that the dismantling of this stack be in an orderly fashion. It's like pickup sticks. These logs are all intertwined.
This is what they were trying to construct. It is last year's bonfire just before it was lit, standing 55 feet tall. This morning, they were putting into place the 4th stack of logs, with 2 more layers to go when it gave way. As rescue workers search for life in the twisted logs, they stop and listen with sensitive equipment. They've heard moans, and a cheer went up when a student was pulled out alive. But workers have also been lifting bodies from underneath the timber. It is difficult to be certain how many are missing, and this morning they tried to do a campus-wide bed check. More than 40,000 students attend this university. The phone system has had trouble handling the frantic calls from parents.
They don't have any information about that yet.
Be patient with us. More lines are being constructed, more efforts are being made to allow these calls to get in.
The bonfire tradition itself was under attack today. Officials were on the defensive about letting students build such a massive structure. Instead of looking forward to a homecoming celebration that the alumni and students here cherish, this campus is now facing an agonizing weekend of funerals and memorial services. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, College Station.
And now we go to Washington. In Washington today, Egypt's ambassador to the United States and other Egyptian officials went to the National Transportation Safety Board to review evidence from the Egypt Air crash. The Egyptians are particularly upset about leaks to the media from the U.S. government, which have implicated the plane's co-pilot, Gamil Batouti. In Cairo today, ABC's Sheila McVicker has been talking one more time to Mr. Batouti's family.
This summer, Gamil Batouti danced with his family. It was a party to celebrate the graduation of one of his sons from the police academy. Showing the videotape is part of his family's continuing effort to defend his reputation. Today, they released financial information that they say proves Gamil Batouti had no money worries, that he owned 3 homes and, in fact, was about to receive a pension that they say would have given him a lump sum of $180,000. That, plus a monthly pension, income from a farm, investments, about $3,000 a month, a comfortable income in Cairo. As for life insurance, payable at his death, they say that would have paid only about $50,000. The family also said Gamil Batouti was a decorated war hero and that he knew Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak from their days as Air Force pilots together. This is clearly a painful experience for his family, but Gamil Batouti's relatives feel they have no choice but to try to defend his honor. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Cairo.
As Mr. Batouti's family is obliged to make its case, and it's a convincing one for many people, those men and women who investigate airline crashes remind us that sometimes things are not what they seem. Here's ABC's John Miller.
FBI agents will look at every aspect of Gamil Batouti's life. They need to learn all they can about what his friends and family knew about him, and they want to know if there is anything his friends and family missed.
What we would look for is for enough evidence to form an opinion as to whether or not this individual could have done this.
Dick Alt worked at the Academy Group, a private company of former FBI and Secret Service behavioral scientists, or profilers. He says in most cases in the last 15 years, friends and co-workers of airline employees suspected of intentionally crashing planes just didn't want to believe it. When a Pacific Southwest airliner crashed in California in 1987, killing 24, investigators learned a fired airline employee had shot and killed the crew in mid-flight, leaving a note to a supervisor about his firing.
Many people said at the time, oh, no, he couldn't have done it. I can't believe it. He's not that kind of a guy.
In December 1997, an Indonesian pilot who had been demoted is suspected of intentionally crashing his jet, killing 104 on board. He was in debt and had just purchased a large life insurance policy for his family. In August of 1994, Moroccan investigators believe a pilot intentionally crashed his plane after having a lover's quarrel with his female co-pilot. 44 died. And in February of 1982, investigators say the pilot of a Japan Airlines DC-8 intentionally crashed into Tokyo Bay. The pilot was rescued, but 166 others died. He remains in a psychiatric institution. For the FBI agents who will be asking these questions in Cairo, their job may be made even more difficult by the Egyptian government's discomfort and the co-pilot's family's anger over the American theory of what happened here. John Miller, ABC News, New York.
Some of the other news today: in a Texas courtroom, a jury has found a third man guilty in the killing of James Byrd, the black man who was dragged behind a truck until he died. Sean Berry was sentenced to life in prison. His 2 former roommates had been condemned to death. Berry testified that he was a bystander to the killing, too terrified to stop it. The Centers for Disease Control reports today that between 1993 and 1996, the number of people killed by guns in the country went to its lowest level since the 1960s, down more than 20%. The CDC also reports today that Utah has the country's lowest smoking rate. Only 14% of people smoke in this heavily Mormon state. The highest rate is in Kentucky, which grows a lot of tobacco. 31% of people smoke there, and nationwide 23% still smoke cigarettes. When we come back, an agreement on the budget, saving Social Security, and some very creative bookkeeping. And we'll take a closer look at the future of the internet. Why should a government be scared?
Do you need this much space to feel comfortable? Do you need to feel the breeze on your face? Is taking a nap really the best use of your time? Introducing the all-new redesigned Avalon, the most spacious, most luxurious sedan we've ever created. Do you need this much space to feel comfortable?
This Social Security measure.
In 1935, FDR helped millions of Americans retire with less worry. Today, we're picking up where he left off. Introducing the Retirement Income Manager from T. Rowe Price, a unique advisory service that helps you determine how much of your retirement savings you can comfortably spend each month for the rest of your life. The Retirement Income Manager. We believe FDR would have approved. Call 1-800-341-0040 for more information.
Suffering from nasal congestion? A new kind of relief is about to be revealed. Introducing Natravent, the only preservative-free nasal spray. For long-lasting relief, new Natravent. No preservatives, fast relief.
In Washington today, the White House and the Congress appear to have finally agreed on a budget. It passed the House of Representatives this evening. Republicans and the White House have both made concessions, and both are behaving as if victory is theirs. Republicans say most emphatically, in public at least, that the government is not going to spend money meant for Social Security on other programs. Here's ABC's Linda Douglas with details.
Lock it away.
Republicans claim they have met their #1 goal, becoming the first Congress to pay for government spending without borrowing from the Social Security Trust Fund.
We stopped the rate on Social Security. There's never any going back on that again.
But in order to say their budget will not dip into Social Security funds, both the GOP and the president are using an astounding array of accounting schemes, such as using 2 sets of books to combine the most favorable spending estimates from the White House with the rosiest spending estimates from the Congressional Budget Office, transferring funds from the Federal Reserve into the U.S. Treasury at an accelerated rate so Congress can spend it this year.
They're cheating in all sorts of ways, in the sense that they are shifting spending that would take place this fiscal year into the next fiscal year.
They have even delayed paychecks to military personnel for 2 days at the end of the fiscal year, so that the expenditure will not show up on the books until next year. If the sleight of hand does not work, and the public thinks Republicans have broken their promise not to raid Social Security, the GOP could pay a big political price in the next elections. Linda Douglas, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up more than 152 points to close at 11,035. On the NASDAQ, stocks were up more than 77 points. In a moment, President Yeltsin to Bill Clinton. Get off my back.
Hi, my car's out front.
We'll get started right away.
Introducing 5-Star, a new approach to selling and servicing cars and trucks.
You're all set.
Great job, guys. Let's run that drill again.
5-Star, certified training so rigorous, only the best make the cut. It's better, we'll prove it, only where you see these signs.
Thanks for making a leave. For almost 5 years, I had a hard time walking. I went from doctor to doctor and even had surgery on both knees. Pain relievers like Tylenol quit after a few hours and the pain came back. Finally, a doctor suggested a leave. Within a week, I was dancing all night like I hadn't done in years.
Aleve can stop pain all day with just 2 pills. It would take 8 Tylenol to do that.
Now people say I'm a walking advertisement for Aleve.
All day strong, all day long.
About free computers, but we haven't actually seen one. Not one with a monitor, 24-hour tech support, and a year of AOL included, like a Gateway PC with an Intel Celeron processor. Call 1-800-GATEWAY. For $28 a month, it's a PC you can believe in.
Are we going to have a good time tonight?
Bye, Dad. Thanks for jumping in and watching Tyler.
Bye, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. There he goes.
If you knew you were going to be a babysitter today...
Oh, glad it wasn't my teeth.
You would have made sure you used Fixodent.
Come here. Oh, what are you doing?
Hey, smart move. You did use Fixodent. So now you're ready.
I gotta wait.
For just about anything. For an even better fit. Fixodent and forget it.
President Clinton was in Istanbul today for a summit meeting of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Hanging over the meeting is the tension between Russia and almost everybody else because of the Russian army's violent campaign against its own region of Chechnya. The U.S. very much disapproves of what the Russians are doing in Chechnya, but it can't do very much about it. Here's ABC's John Cochran.
Boris Yeltsin may be in poor health, but he was strong enough to tell President Clinton and 52 other world leaders that when it comes to Chechnya, they should get off his back. You have no right, he said, to criticize Russia over Chechnya. It is a war on terrorists and an internal affair. President Clinton warned Yeltsin that his attacks on Chechnya will only result in more violence by the rebels. But Clinton himself took a soft line. No threats that the West will cut off economic aid. Instead, Clinton played on Yeltsin's vanity, recalling his stand against a failed communist coup 8 years ago.
President Yeltsin, one of the most thrilling experiences of my life was when you stood up on that tank in Moscow, when they tried to take the freedom of the Russian people away.
But then President Clinton used that image to take a slap at what Yeltsin is doing now.
If they had put you in jail instead of electing you president, I would hope that every leader of every country around this table would have stood up for you and for freedom in Russia and not said, well, that is an internal Russian affair that we cannot be a part of.
The Russians have driven more than 200,000 civilians from Chechnya. Russian bombs and shells are also killing and maiming people who are not, in Yeltsin's words, bandits and terrorists. There are many who believe the Clinton administration has been too soft on Yeltsin.
It's a genocide. 1 million people are being, in effect, liquidated as a nation.
President Clinton got little out of Yeltsin, only a pledge to permit an international team to visit Chechnya, but no promise to stop the fighting. President Clinton hoped Yeltsin would leave here realizing how unpopular his war on Chechnya is in the West. But that war is very popular in Russia, and that is what matters most to Boris Yeltsin. John Cochran, ABC News, Istanbul.
One other item from Europe. In Northern Ireland today, the former U.S. Senator George Mitchell, who's been trying to save the peace agreement between Catholics and Protestants that was falling us apart, has some reason to smile. He's won a promise from the Irish Republican Army, which says it will begin negotiations to hand over its weapons. Now, the Protestant parties in the North have to decide if that is enough to go forward. Just ahead, we'll go forward. What's the world's largest experiment in anarchy? We'll take a closer look.
World News Tonight with Peter Jennings and a closer look. Brought to you by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Why do I have Aflac insurance on top of my regular health insurance? Because he has his mother's eyes. Because I still have to teach him to whistle. And because Aflac helps cover what other insurance doesn't. If I'm injured, Aflac even provides cash to help pay bills. So why do I have Aflac? Did I mention he has his mother's eyes? Aflac supplemental insurance. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Who would you like to call?
Frank?
The Samsung Digital Wireless Phone featuring internet access and voice-activated dialing. Flip the phone, shout the name, and Samsung dials the number. Samsung Digital. Everyone's invited.
A significant discovery in eye health may be lutein, a nutrient found in these healthy foods. Now Centrum has the only leading multivitamins with lutein to help maintain your precious sight. Centrum Silver, now more complete with lutein.
When it comes to traditional luxury, it's anything but more of the same. Introducing the all-new 2000 Bonneville. When supercharged, it's one of the world's most powerful sports sedans. More luxury. More attitude. The all-new 2000 Bonneville by Pontiac.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. You know, your home is your sanctuary. The one place you and your children should feel safe. But there can be dangers, too, and some of them are not so obvious. Improperly wired outlets that can electrocute. Water coolers that can burn, household cleaners that can kill, lead paint that can poison. To find out about them, call HUD.
For a free brochure on HUD's healthy homes and FHA loans, just call. HUD and FHA are on your side.
We're going to take a closer look tonight again at the future of the Internet. Not that we have anything but the vaguest idea of where it's going in the long run. One of the truly fascinating and somewhat unsettling aspects of the Internet revolution is how many technologists and scientists say that the future may hold any number of surprises. So we're going to inch our way into the future. ABC's Ned Potter first on the possibilities for all.
Would you like one of our TV ROMs about a humanity ROM?
At the Internet World Trade Show in New York,
Who wants to be a cyborg? I do. All right.
they see a future when the web is everywhere.
Technology is moving from the desktop into our everyday life.
Imagine work, society, economics, relationships, all transformed when anyone, anytime, can get any message or knowledge or amusement they want anywhere on the planet without so much as a wire.
Well, in many ways, the Internet is the world's largest experiment in anarchy, because all of a sudden, the citizens of the world are in charge, and no single government or governing body is in charge of what they do.
Keep in mind that the web, transmitting by satellite, cell phone, cable, goes through no one central location that anyone controls. So many of the boundaries that exist today, political and economic, will be strained as never before. Some scientists say 3/4 of the world's languages will disappear as the net connects isolated places. Already, English is what you find on most web pages, blending cultures no matter how much people try to save them. Economies are changing too. As distance becomes meaningless, white-collar clerical, accounting, or administrative jobs are being exported to Asia, just as blue-collar factory jobs were years ago.
Imagine there are 40 or 50 million Indians, not to mention the Chinese, who could deliver office work to the rich countries of the world for $2 an hour.
So this massive web of information is both an asset and a threat, changing cultures, economies, governments in ways no one can imagine or control. Ned Potter, ABC News, New York.
As Ned says, in ways that no one can imagine or control. And when it comes to the Internet, there's a thought that may well frighten the communist leaders of China, which is where we go next tonight. The big trade agreement between the U.S. and China this week allows foreigners to invest in Chinese Internet ventures. The agreement has been criticized for not addressing China's terrible record on human rights. But as ABC's Deborah Wong reports tonight, one of the most effective ways to change China may be with the power of information.
In Beijing, 29-year-old William Ding is riding the wave of interest in the Internet that's growing by leaps and bounds. You can see that everybody's very excited, he says. The net is so big. Ding's website provides news, email, chat rooms, and even online auctions. It's visited over 7 million times per day. The number of people using the Internet is doubling every few months. But unlike many countries, information here is severely controlled.
The Chinese authorities actively block any sites they find offensive. For example, if you wanted to log into the site for human rights in China, which is highly critical of the government, you would not be able to access it.
There are 4 no's on the Internet: no dissent, no sex, and no advocating independence for Tibet nor Taiwan. No dissent meant that when the banned movement Falun Gong used email to gather its members for a massive protest in Beijing, authorities responded by shutting email servers down. Internet chat rooms are also closely monitored, and police routinely insist that offensive messages be removed.
At the very top, the Chinese government doesn't quite know exactly what to think of this. They want the economic, the technology benefits of the Internet, but they're afraid of the social side effects.
So for now, the Chinese can only get access to such things as sports and entertainment and some news that's heavily censored. But the government will soon have to contend with the changing technology that will make the Internet nearly impossible to control. Deborah Wong, ABC News, Beijing.
For more, and there's always more on the Internet revolution, there's a natural place to go, abcnews.com. When we come back, the beach at the bottom of the sea. What does it tell us about Noah?
Yeah, let me get this straight.
Yes.
Are you actually saying I don't have to pay you a separate commission every time I trade a stock?
Exactly.
I'd pay an annual fee instead. Right. Is anyone getting this?
We don't pay you a commission every time we trade. What's your motivation?
It's just like always, Ann, your best interest.
Could you just explain it again?
Maybe what it is the fee is based on the value of our portfolios. So when we succeed, they succeed.
Well, you'll have to be patient with us. This is all very new.
The hot flashes got pretty bad. Night sweats were ruining my sleep. Vaginal dryness made intimacy uncomfortable. And I was worried that estrogen loss at menopause could lead to osteoporosis, a long-term health problem. Menopause is complicated. Talking to my doctor helped. For me, she prescribed Prempro. It's relieving my uncomfortable symptoms, and along with calcium and exercise, helping prevent osteoporosis.
Prempro is only for women who have not had a hysterectomy. Prempro is not for every woman. You should not take Prempro if you've had any breast or uterine cancer, abnormal vaginal bleeding, abnormal blood clotting, liver or heart disease, stroke, or if you think or know you are pregnant. Tell your doctor about your personal and family medical history. Side effects include blood clots, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, breast tenderness, irregular bleeding, and headache. For more information, talk to your doctor about Prempro or call.
I'm glad my doctor prescribed Prempro. Now I'm feeling great. For me, it's Prempro.
Friday, he spent years making you laugh. Now he just might move you to tears. Dudley Moore speaks candidly about the battle of his life.
Do you feel as if you are a prisoner in your own body?
A moving Barbara Walters exclusive, 2020 Friday.
Coming up next, should he have been back on the streets? Tonight, disturbing facts about the criminal past of a Sweet Home shooting suspect. And it's the hottest way to surf the web. So hot, AT&T is struggling to supply the local demand. I'm Steve Dunn. Local News is next.
Finally this evening, trying to get to the bottom of a biblical story, the one about Noah's Ark. There have always been men who looked for Noah's Ark, and some who believe they've actually come upon its remnants. Tonight, a scientific discovery by the man who found the Titanic. This one is at the bottom of the Black Sea, off the coast of Turkey. And, well, it's intriguing. Here's ABC's Bill Blakemore.
What Robert Ballard found 550 feet below the surface of the Black Sea is a 7,500-year-old shoreline, an ancient beach.
That is the beach.
Ballard and others believe it was the edge of an enormous freshwater lake that disappeared suddenly under a saltwater flood that was of truly biblical proportions. After the last ice age, the glaciers were melting, raising the world's sea level. Scientists believe the Mediterranean finally gushed over a land bridge at the Bosphorus, raising the ancient lake 6 inches a day.
People living in these valleys or living along the edges of the shore would have had to flee inland a half a mile to a mile a day, every day, for maybe up to 200 days.
Researchers say people who escaped the advancing flood might have fled to the Mideast, taking the story of their experience with them. A possible source for the biblical story of Noah's flood, written a few thousand years later. Whatever the biblical truth, Ballard will return to the Black Sea next summer, tantalized by the prospect of entire villages and civilizations preserved where they were suddenly engulfed 7,500 years ago. Bill Blakemore, ABC News.
As we said, intriguing. That's our report on World News Tonight. Later this evening on Nightline, children abducted from the battlefields of El Salvador and then labeled as orphans and sold. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening. Good night.
From ABC News tomorrow, Texas First Lady Laura Bush. Is she on the road to becoming America's First Lady? She speaks candidly with Diane Sawyer on Good Morning America and on World News Tonight. Putting the power and intelligence of a computer in a speck of dust. Think what this could mean on ABC's World News Tonight. This has been a